for another Coffee with Kilroy, or what I like to call beverage in a book. My beverage, well, you guessed it, coffee. Oh, that's good today. The book, well, I'm going back to a series. This is Men of War Solitaire Tactical Book War Game. This is Module 2, Indochina, 1946 to 1954, French Foreign Legion. This is Module 2, which Module 1 was Rhodesian Bush War, Forward Together. Now, these are designed by and put together by Joe Fernandez, who has reached out to me and was going to send me a copy of this. So thanks for the thought, Joe. I couldn't wait. I ended up picking this up. I had covered the earlier one, Module 1, and find these very interesting. Plus, I cover a lot of war game books. Check out my playlist on war game books and game books in general. I have a couple of different playlists there, and these intrigue me. They are somewhat in the fashion of kind of a Minden type games where it's basically a rule set and they're very close to your traditional hex and counter type games. So, but in order to get it to that stage, you're going to need to do a little bit yourself. It's a little bit of a DIY type situation where you're going to have to put the counters together yourself. Now, they give you pages that you copy, or you can copy out of here and maybe copy that onto a sticker sheet and then put that on whatever counter stock you want. Or I believe they have put out files, like PDF files that you could get and make these components as well. So there is a little bit of do-it-yourself in these game books. They're not as self-contained as some other ones that are out there, but yet there's a lot of game in here. There's a lot of scenarios, and these are typically small unit tactical type games. So they harken back to or think back to your squad leader, advanced squad leader, and then of course there's all kinds of small unit tactical games on the market today. These are really focusing on more modern type war. This one is post World War II, or immediately after World War II, and the French involvement in Indochina. The other one was the Rhodesian Bush War, which was much more modern as well. So there you have it. Joe appears to me to be a relatively humble guy. You don't see his name anywhere on the cover or even on the back, and you got to kind of look through the book a little bit, which nowadays you see designers' names everywhere, but I don't know what that means. It's just I found it interesting. Had to go hunt down the man. So anyway, here is the back of the book, talking about, gives you a little bit of context of what we're going to be doing in this book. Men of War, French Indochina, French Foreign Legion is Module 2, standalone solitaire tactical book war game. Man, that's a mouthful. Designed to recreate modern, low-intensity conflicts at the tactical level. Men of War is an infantry-centric, old-school hex and counter war game system that mimics the nuances of modern small unit leadership, fire, and maneuver, primarily team and squad-based formation. In this second installment of the series, Indochina, French Foreign Legion, the players control units from the famed French Foreign Legions fighting under the French flag to maintain a fragile foothold in the post-World War II Indochina. Fighting the disciplined communist Viet Minh guerrilla cadre, French units must navigate and engage insurgents through difficult terrain in a new type of war. The game scale is at a tactical level, with each grid representing approximately 40 meters, turns representing a few minutes, and units representing teams of 3 to 5 soldiers. A dynamic and aggressive enemy artificial intelligence bot keeps players guessing enemy disposition on every turn. So features small unit tactical gameplay, unique geomorphic hexagonal maps depicting jungle terrain linked for larger scenarios, 10 historically inspired missions, support weapons, easy to learn 6-page rulebook, deep tactical gameplay, a dynamic aggressive AI, and portable. All you need in this book is a D10 and a D6 dice, or a smartphone and a marker. Yeah, I guess in this you might be able to play the game by marking stuff up, but I like, making up the counters and stuff that they have in here as well. This includes a 6-page rule book with line of sight examples, 2 player aids, I think it's the same player aid, just 2 copies, 11 mission sheets, 10 mission cards, 84 half-inch unit and weapon counters, 94 status markers, 2 sets of 4 maps, and free downloads at Board Game Geek. Yeah, there's where you get all the fun stuff for this. Anyway, and if any of you have been played these, either played Module 1 or this one just came out, love to know how you're doing it. Are you downloading these from Board Game Geek and geeking out and making all your counters and maps, or are you making copies from the book or just using the book? I mean, like to know how everybody is, experiencing these books, because as I said, I think this is a solid system, but there is a little bit of DIY in this one. Here we go. The front of the book here says cover art by Joe Fernandez. Then you've got your table of contents, units, mission cards, gameplay, enemy, combat train, line of sight, rally checks, and then you've got your the French Indochina War, designer notes and changes, so you get a little bit of context there. More line of sight examples, Battalion of the Damned, and mission cards. So mission cards are the scenarios, so it's 12 through 60. So most of this book are the scenarios. Get a little bit of introduction here from Joe. Then you've got, it's basically dual column with color and examples. So you've got your units here. Let's get a sample of the units so you can see what we're talking about here. And this is the same system. Well, this is a system, right? The Men of War. So it's the same as the Rhodesian Bush War, Module 1. I'll put a link to that in the description of this. But you can see with the firepower and action points and then down below is it halved. The firepower half, action points half, and then rally check. So you can see there on the units. You got leaders. And the leaders have modifiers there to those different attributes. So again, you're kind of getting into that squad level mentality, small unit mentality, where it's, leaders are important, and and the tactical nature of the units and their weapon support really comes into play. Here's an explanation of the mission cards, sequence of play here. Talking about your action points and some of your squad level weapons and grenades, flamethrower, satchel charge, booby trap. Here's your enemy, which is based on an AI or a bot. There's bot activation, opportunity fire, enemy posture, unknown markers, train and line of sight. A little more on line of sight, and I think there's an example later on in this book. Combat, melee, rally check, radio communication, all the stuff that you're used to seeing in a small unit tactical game. Fire support, and here's some symbols. And that's it. That's basically your rules. Says it was 6 pages. Well, I guess there's an index at the beginning. So you got 6 pages of rules, dual column. So looks relatively easy to get into, and that was my experience with the last one. Here's your designer note, a little bit of context on the French Indochina War, and designer notes and changes from the first module. Some line of sight examples. Line of sight's always tricky in small unit tactical games. Then we get into a little bit more context on the French Foreign Legion here. And then we're into the game proper. Here's your player aid with the terrain charts. So it's got your sequence of play, your terrain chart, enemy posture, unknown markers, and fire support here. You've got some counters. So this is where you can make a copy of this page, and sometimes I'll do it on a sticker sheet, and so then I can just apply this to whatever stock I want to make, or you can, I think, download this at Board Game Geek. More markers, for your counters. And then you're into the mission. This is mission 1. And, anybody who's played a small unit tactical game, you're going to, probably familiar with them listing out what units you need to have and what location they are, any setup special rules, and then the objective or victory conditions, and then what map you use. And so there's 2 missions on a page here. Tells you how many turns these go. This is an 8-turn mission. This is a 12-turn. This uses 2 maps here. And you're just going to have several of these missions here. Now, these you don't need to pull out of the book, although you might want to have off to the side so you can keep track of like any of the special rules or victory conditions. But these can kind of stay inside the book for they don't necessarily have to come out there. It's got several missions here, so there's like 10 missions. That one's a relatively involved one there. You've got a lot of units. You've got 4 maps, 12 turns, a lot of different rules and objectives, and then quite a few units on that one. That is Operation Triangle, so you're going to work your way up to that one. Then you've got these, which are blank missions. So it's another DIY. You can do it yourself. You can kind of fill these out or make up whatever mission you want to do on that. Here's a mission sheet. Now these you might want to make a copy of because this you keep track of your units during the game on what's happening with them. You can keep track of your turns over here. And it's got a little AI posture die D6 rolls over here. So this is something you might want to make a copy of and have some of these available as you play the mission, because they kind of help you keep track of stuff. There's several of those in here. Or you can write in the book too. There are several of those. I just don't write in books. So there you have it. And then you got then the last part of this are the maps. So here is map 1. So very, familiar small unit tactical type map, terrain, hexagon terrain, roads, rivers or streams, different types of jungle and hills as your terrain there. That's 1, then 2, 3, 4. Got a little bit of a village going on here. And then you've got another copy of those. So if you wanted to, you could leave some in the book and pull these out or print these out on a thicker stock maybe. And I imagine you can download these at Board Game Geek as well. I haven't been to that to pull these down yet. So you got 2 copies of the maps. And then you've got another player aid there at the tail end, which is similar to the other player aid. And then a French Foreign Legion creed there or something. There you have it. This is Men of War, Solitaire Tactical Book Wargame Module 2, Indochina, 1946 to 1954, French Foreign Legion. You got to give it to Joe. He does pack a mouthful when you're trying to describe these games. They have quite, by the time you use the series title and then the individual titles, my goodness, they get quite intense there, quite a mouthful. So there you have it. That is Men of War, Module 2. I think Joe's going to keep pushing these forward. These are interesting. These are, to me, these are very much akin to a boxed war game or a bagged war game of similar kind. You know, it's small unit tactical, it's squads or even half squads, it's leaders, it's support weapons. There's a built-in AI in there with the bots that you're going up against. That's something that is a little bit unique, you know, from your squad leaders and your band of brothers and um, lock and load tactical. I'm leaving out several. Uh, uh, Combat commander, uh, conflict of heroes. I could go on. There's quite a few small unit tactical games out there, but only recently have some of those started to introduce a solitaire module, and that's usually a lot of times it's card based, where you're flipping over cards, and that's telling you kind of what the AI is going to do, and a lot of times it's not exact. I mean, they're not saying, it doesn't tell you exactly all the movements it makes. Um, it's more of a general suggestion. I mean, it kind of gives you generally what that AI is going to do, but a lot of times you have some decisions at the tail end to figure out what that means or to translate that. The new one from Compass, relatively new, Combat, and I know there's a Combat 2 now. That one is more programmed. That one, it is solitaire only, and it has a system where you pull out counters that are basically the commands. So it's like pre-programmed commands for the AI, and that one's a little bit tighter as far as I don't think there's really as much decisions on what the AI is going to do, because I mean, there might be some if there's like two choices, but or equally legitimate choices. But for the most part, a lot of the programming is hardwired. So this one is interesting because it's solitaire, and it has that built in as well, what the bots are doing. And it's a little bit smaller format. Again, it doesn't come boxed or bagged. So there is some put it together yourself here, though. This is not something that I really don't see playing this inside the book. I guess you could. I guess you could leave the maps in there. I guess you could just cut out the counters and play it right out of the book without much assembly. But this one really kind of screams for putting it together in a little bit more, heartier format. So I'd love to know what any of you are doing with this. I'd love to know if you've played this, what you think, or if you're interested in this, or if you're shying away from it, why. You might just shy away from war game books in general or game books in general. That's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own. I've covered a lot of these, and this is kind of a more of a renaissance, I guess, of these. These have been around for forever, since wargaming started in the 60s and 70s, and or got hot in the 60s and 70s. So, but over the last couple of years, these have really started picking up some more steam, and there's a lot of different varieties, and yet this is yet a different variety, a little bit different flavor from some of the other ones that are coming onto the market. So anyway, that's what I have for you today. Wanted to get this out to you while it's still relatively new. Love to know your thoughts on it. Most importantly, thanks for stopping by. Always appreciate you stopping by and listening to me for a little bit of time. Sorry this went over a little bit more, but I wanted to go into a little bit more of the context of war game books. Best way I know that you stop by, hey, drop a comment. I'd love to read your comments, and others do too. So that's what I have for you today. Enjoy your coffee. Enjoy your day or your evening, whenever you're watching this, and have a good one. Thanks for watching.